Hello, Robert, and welcome to your deck review. For anybody joining us for the first time on YouTube, this is a series where I, Maldhound, a known yeller, shit talker, and generally angry man, will politely and calmly review, I guess, Frodo's PP, which feels a little bit off, but that's your premise and your primer. Nope, I did it wrong. Premise and practicum of your commander deck. Your premise is the idea behind your deck. It's what it does in a perfect world. Your practicum is what you put in the deck and whether or not it actually helps you do that. So we're going to talk about the idea first, if it can work at the power level Robert is playing at. And after that, we'll go over what do they put in the deck? Does it let you do that? So I've pre-read the primer here, and there's definitely a disconnect I want to talk about, and that disconnect is I don't want this to be a generic token deck. I want this to be focused on food. And the things I like about food are drain gain, life gain triggers, and token enter and leave triggers. I'm with you on life gain. On everything else, man, we gotta we gotta see eye to eye. And I realize there's a little bit of nuance there, but if we talk about what you're an Abzan, what green, black, white wants to do with tokens, like tokens entering and leaving. Nope, corpse token, it's corpse knight. Come on, get out of here, Scryfall. Um God, you have like Mirkwood bats, right? That's a big one. I'm sure it's probably in this deck. It's like, oh man, tokens entering and leaving, drain and gain. That's every token deck. You have poison tip archer is where you will inevitably end up if we continue along the path of like, how do I push this food deck? Because this cares about creatures, but like most of, oh man, I love gain and drain triggers. I love ETB and leave, like enter the battlefield and leave the battlefield triggers. You love generic token decks. I think you like the garnish that food provides, but 2/3 of the thing we're describing as fun about this deck is the same as the fun you would have with a creature aristocrat deck. I'm super down to gear this towards food because I like when people tunnel in on the specific thing they like rather than just accepting the broad thing. But it does mean that I'm probably going to gear a lot of my advice towards life gain triggers, which is going to mean I'm giving you weaker upgrades because the ceiling on a true food focused deck is lower than the ceiling on just a whatever aristocrat deck, right? If we're like, there's some stuff we can do, but a plus tune to the gills food deck is probably going to be about as good as like a B minus aristocrat deck. You can still win games. You can super keep up in bracket 3. You might even be able to keep up in bracket 4, depending on how good your pod is at like interaction and threat assessment and how good you can be at navigating that. Um, but I do think that's something you should meditate about because what you have called out here is not something that's actually different than, every token deck ever. And even if we do a food specific deck, we're probably going to work towards, here's another thing you probably have in the deck already. We're probably going to work towards overrun win cons as an alternate way to be like food focused. That's also what every token deck ever is doing. We might be working towards like, I spelled it wrong. We might be working towards like, okay, foods turn into mana. I think like maybe a cabbage merchant does that too or something. I've seen that before, and that's another like, if it feels different internally, or I guess it's about whether you want it to feel different to you internally or whether you want it to project externally to other people. Whatever you do with this, it is going to play to other people 90% as a generic token deck if we do any of this stuff. And you should be doing this stuff if you want to keep up in bracket 3-4. That's all the like, I don't even want that to sound too negative. That's just the reality of how the deck's going to come across. As long as we can make it feel good for you, I don't think any of that really matters, especially at the higher brackets. Like, just do your thing. So moving on from that, you say you're scaling too slowly. By the time my food creation is going strong and I have payoffs, I feel as though the game is already over. One member of our pod likes to play really efficiently. My primary draw engine is Frodo. Maybe that needs to change as well. Probably, unless Frodo's like crazy good as a draw engine. Finally, I really, really hate Chatterfang. That's super real and directly at odds with, again, two of the three things you have described. So that's worth meditating on. My girlfriend texted me, so I'm going to pause this recording for 1 second. All right, and magically, I am back instantly. So when we're talking about speeding up a deck, you kind of have three options. You can slow down everybody else, you can get your existing stuff going faster, or you can pare down how much stuff you need to convert into a win. Now, with food tokens, I'm sure there's some type of calculus that can be done to figure out exactly how many tokens you need by what turn to turn it into death. Every token player I've ever met doesn't have fun playing that way. Every token player I've ever met wants to go like more, 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 more. And then when I'm forced to, or when I've had my fun, I'm going to kill you now. Very few token players I know are working on very tight, compact lines unless they're trying to make it work in like fringe CEDH or something. So we're probably going to go for either speeding up the like goofier, or like speeding up the cards you already have that aren't necessarily the best cards for the deck but you like, or we're going to slam in like way more removal so that you can stuff the first one or two win attempts and then have time to set up the stuff you already have. So let's look at the stuff you already have. We have Frodo and Sam, which so Sam's a 1/3. If you gain 3 or more life, the ring tempts you. If Frodo is your ring bearer and the ring has tempted you 2 or more times this game, draw a card. So basically, every combat, every combat we have cracked a food that turn, we can swing Sam, draw 1 card. And he's presumably your ring bearer at 1 power. He has 3 buddies, probably not getting killed. That's actually not the worst card draw engine ever. Looking at your ramp, I am going to have a moment. So I think the problem I'm going to call out first. It looks like you are intending to go land drop Frodo, land drop Sam. Move away from that. If you solve that problem, you will probably feel worlds different about this deck. What I think you should be doing instead is turn 1, I am ramping every game. You should have enough 1 mana ramp in this deck that you can mulligan safely. And by mulligan safely, I mean with the free mulligan or going to 6, you can be pretty confident you are going to find a piece of that 1 mana ramp every game. Very possible you just need 10 to 12 pieces. I'll pull those up with an O tag, but those will all work. And then what you can do is I'm going to get Sam turn 2 every game. That means we're going to start having food tokens, and we can look at other stuff that will utilize the food tokens earlier, either to draw you cards, remove threats, da 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 da. And then you're probably going to do Frodo when you need to. But even if you do that, the earliest you're going to be swinging Frodo to get a ring tempt is turn 4, which means the earliest you're going to swing Frodo and get a card is turn 5. That's really not aggressive enough card draw, or it's not that aggressive as card draw. Now, it is in your command zone. It is guaranteed every game, so it is a lot better than nothing. But I think the curve out that would work better to me, because right now it seems like your curve out is turn 1, I do nothing 9 times out of 10. Every once in a while, I draw Birds of Paradise, I draw Soul Ring, great. But 98% of games, I do nothing on turn 1. On turn 2, I tap out for Frodo, and I can't do anything about what the table's doing. Turn 3, I tap out for Sam, and I can't do anything about what the table is doing. Turn 4, I have a food, I crack food, swing Frodo, and then turn 5, crack food, swing Frodo, begin drawing cards. And what I think you should be doing, get more mana earlier so that you have more mana to spend. Like, we end up on the exact same curve for when you can draw cards from Frodo, but you get your big thing down sooner. So notably, on turn 3, which in high power pods is like can be a very, very pivotal turn, instead of tapping out for your value engine, we're now going to spend 2 of our hopefully 4 mana, because you have hopefully hit a 1 mana ramp source and you've hit all 3 land drops. We're going to pray. But you're hopefully spending 2 of your 4 mana or 2 of your 3 mana to cast Frodo, and then you have 1 mana up for a piece of interaction to stuff the really fucking scary thing somebody's doing. Maybe somebody did like they drop an Ouroboros, they drop a Rhystic Study, they drop a Smothering Tithe, and now you will have the ability to put stuff in your deck that you can hold up. Holy hell, we'll talk about that in a second. Put stuff in your deck that you can hold up to interact with those things. This interaction package is pretty goofy. I will say, to keep up with your pod, we are going to have to move pretty far away from utilizing all Lord of the Rings cards. It looks like we are on about maybe 90% adherence to cards that are from Lord of the Rings. And when you do something that is so set specific, you gatekeep yourself pretty hard into the bottom of bracket 3. Like you've shoved some game changers in here. We saw like Necropotence, like One Ring and Orcish Bowmasters. Those are two really, really good game changers, and so they can take you a long way. But I think you're gatekeeping yourself pretty goddamn hard. And so the stuff that it will be best for you to break out of Lord of the Rings specific cards on, 1 mana ramp, 1 to 2 mana removal. You can drop early in the game, turn 3, turn 4, when you are spending half of your mana on Frodo or half of your mana on cracking 1 food, and then you don't have to pass the turn shields down. That's also going to give you more feelings of agency throughout the game. This is crazy, dog. You can't talk to me about how we don't want to be a generic token player and how we hate Chatterfang, and you're showing me a creature-specific aristocrat. You gotta get right, not with God, not with me. You got to get right with you. You have to get right with you. That said, pretty good card. I actually might recommend you cut it unless we have a lot of creature to. Oh, we have quite a bit of creature token generation. Okay. All right. Um, Now for your ramp, I do think you can cut all this other fucking ramp. Genuinely, I think everything that's not 1 mana ramp can just become 1 mana ramp, and you don't have to. Yeah, what's your curve? I don't love this. I think this is too heavy at 3, but it's genuinely not the end of the world. But I would just turn. I would keep the same amount of ramp. They all have to be 1 mana. You have board wipes. I do like Dusk. I I love Dusk. I hate the other two. I know that you are trying to gain life. Most of your life gain payoffs are creatures on your board that you are going to wipe when you do this. Let's not do that. There are plenty of other sweet, and this is again, I think this is another point where we're gatekeeping ourselves in the bottom of bracket 3 by having everything be from Lord of the Rings, because these two board wipes are. This one's symmetrical mostly. This one is worse for us because we're probably the player with the smallest creatures, and so we have to pay way more life. Like we have to pay a lot of life to then board wipe ourselves anyway. And there's a lot of easy stuff. I mean, there's at least one that's going to come from Lord of the Rings. Maybe you have it under a different tag. I'll check for that. But not symmetrical, fucks everybody who's not you, and hey, you get food. Let's check on that. Battle. No, we don't have it. Beautiful. Put that in. And then, all right, let's talk about our life gain payoffs. This is fine. I think this does feel food specific. Sure, that can feel a little bit food specific. We save up foods, we spend it all in one big burst, and then we stack this. Sure, I like Bog Beast a lot. Crested Sunmare is great. This is cute. I don't think this is quite good enough for bracket 3, bracket 4, but like even in bracket 3 and bracket 4, you got room for a couple pet cards if we do the other stuff right. So this may be a card that becomes acceptable once we fix what the ramp is doing. What I want to stand out to you as an example of why I would not be in love with this card myself is we basically always want to cast these guys as soon as we can. Frodo we could hold off on if we don't have a way to gain life, but if we are a food token deck, I cannot see why we would not cast Sam as quickly as possible. If this, I'll call it out early. If anybody who's doing these types of decks, let me know a situation where you wouldn't just want to go turn 2 Sam. And so because we want to do turn 2 Sam, it means that other stuff that's at the exact same mana value that would be cast on like the same turn, like if we had a 1 mana ramp and we had this in our opening hand, we would never cast this. We just never would. And so the stuff that I would rather have is interaction that pairs with my turn 3 play, which is my commander. Interaction that pairs with my turn 4 play, which is to crack a food. Or I would want something that is a more expensive value engine like Crested Sunmare that would come in handy when I've hit my next land drop. Who I low genuinely don't think Guillaume is any good here. I don't think you. I think this amounts to maybe like one food a turn. Don't love it. Uh, Damn, they made a lot of good. They made a lot of good 3 mana value engines. What the fuck am I talking about? There's got to be one. I would probably rather play Treebeard. I think Treebeard's actually a perfect example. If I'm going to tap out on turn 2 for my commander, and then I'm going to hit my land drop on turn 3, if I'm either going to do Frodo, hold up interaction, or I'm going to do Treebeard. If you're like, oh, I can't hit my land drops, we have 36 lands in this deck. There's not a situation where we should plan on missing our land drops. Or stuff like Witch of the Moors, which is really really powerful. Like spending a lot of time playing 3 mana value engines can be very resilient if you have a good recursion package. So if other people are trying really hard to bully you and remove your stuff from the game, having a lot of stuff in the like 2 to 3 range and then having stuff that can bring it back makes you're like black mold. You're impossible to get rid of. That doesn't sound like the problem we're having. It sounds like the problem we're having is they get to just ignore us and win in our face before we set up anything good. So if they're doing that, I would be more in on the early ramp, and then I would be trying to think about what can I convert that early ramp into that is going to make me the problem or give me access to enough mana to unmake them the problem. So, real quick, because I've been talking for a long time already, engines I don't like as much. Frying Pan, Necropotence, genuinely. This is going to put a target on your back at 3 mana, and it's 3 black pips. I normally don't talk a ton about pips because land bases can usually be built for most situations. 3 black pips is still rough early in the game, and also you don't have a combo or a good combo in the deck. Necropotence is more for decks that can very mana efficiently. If they get the right 7 cards, they just win. That doesn't really happen for us because we're trying to Lego stack 3 and 4 mana value engines with a couple 5 mana value engines like Crested Sunmare to get a preponderance of creatures that we then push at you. So I think you would be better off with, for this one, any other game changer at random. Probably a tutor, but any other game changer at random would be better for this deck than Necropotence is. Cute, too expensive, but cute. Penguin Bond's fine. Gaffer's fine, so we got a little bit of card draw. I don't love Farmer Cotton. Because even if we're only going to be doing 1 mana ramp, we're not really doing big mana. Do we have Jaheira? Yeah, we do. So any card, mental exercise for you, any card that is put in the deck on the assumption of how good it will be when I can tap my foods for mana, cut from the deck for now. You maybe put it back in later if you get a lot of tokens or tutors, you get a lot of deck access. But right now we have any other ways? I don't think so. I think we have one way to turn these foods into mana. And other than that, we're just kind of like land dropping our way to victory. Like, is he good enough if we play him? Well, he makes X foods. I personally don't think that's good enough, but I can see the argument. Make a chump blocker every time we make the food. That's fine. It is more like bracket 2-ish, low bracket 3-ish, but it does make us chump blockers, and those do matter. What's his partners with Pippin? Where the fuck is Pippin? Tap to make a food, but we can do it on an opponent's turn. That's great. Another upside of these two is they can draw each other, so it's almost like card draw, but at home. Sure, Rapacious Guest. This is really bad. I don't think you want to do this. Cut this. Yeah, pretty highly hyper generic, but pretty good generic value engine. And then our token payoffs is, I think this is a pretty good example. This is actually a great example of another one of those like 3 mana, not good enough payoffs. Like I would, Like I would rather draw something like this, where we can bargain it. We can sacrifice the food we made on turn, like on turn 3. Well, probably not turn 3 because we have the 3 black pit problem again. So turn 5, turn 6, I've made some foods. I'm established. I can now get any 4-drop out of my deck and just cast it immediately. Like we have a lot of what I sometimes call 5-tool players, but I'm gonna here say you have a lot of solid B students, and that is to get past the the canyon, the chasm, the massive like grave pile that is low bracket 3. You have to learn how to leave behind your B students. You have to learn how to identify who your A plus students are, and you have to learn how to support them better. So I think the things for you that could be A pluses, it could be Crested Sunmare. Making an unblockable 5/5 on multiple people's turns will add up more quickly than people might want you to believe. Blossoming Bog Beast could be an A plus player. Academy Manufacturer is definitely an A plus value engine. Uh, why here could be. These aren't even like phenomenal cards, but I think the synergies can come together. Um, Peregrine Took very well could be. Rapacious Guest could be. Um, the One Ring like already is, but we have a bunch of things that are kind of just in the middle, and they're okay. They're not great. They're not terrible. They're just kind of there. When even compared to just dropping like a token double, which moves you more towards generic token deck, but I think you're closer to generic token deck than you might like to believe. So after we fix the ramp, talk about this interaction. I think you probably need. I would replace those 2 board wipes, and I would go get one more. For what you replace them with, Spell the Mighty can be pretty good because then you can pick a low power creature on your board and just nuke everything. I think there's a new one from Witherbloom that's not necessarily a board wipe, but would be pretty good for you. Oh, please, dude. Why are we doing this? You could even do Slaughter the Strong. That might work pretty well, especially on the early turns. You're going to have 2 power here, 1 power here. You could have one other thing with 1 power, like your Essence Warden effect, and then you get to keep those, and then anybody, but this depends on what your pod's doing. Huh. From Witherbloom, it's like, hold on. Destroy X non-land permanents. Maybe you have to pay life, which does kind of fit in with what you want to do. Oh no, it's X creatures. This could kind of work for you because we're already like 1 foot in the door of using the token generation to do creature token generation, but this would be another pretty decent mass removal piece for you. And you'll again notice nearly everything I've recommended is not from Lord of the Rings, which I am sorry about, but that is going to be the difference maker between I am in chill bracket 3 and I am in like sweaty bracket 3 or bracket 4. Like bracket 4 is where theming goes to die. To push nearly any deck in the game to bracket 4, you have to sand off a ton of its personality and just use cards that are good. Prob should remove. Yeah, I would say this is another like I said, it's okay, but it's another one of those things that is, it's just okay. On its own, it does barely nothing. When you have synergy, it can do a little bit of something, but they don't have trample. They don't convert directly to winning the game. Bilbo Birthday Celebrant is pure copium. Last March of the Ents doesn't matter. That is a sick as fuck art. Nothing in your deck really gets big enough for that. I think this is better than you're giving it credit for, particularly because most of your stuff is like, oh, never mind, it might not be. Oh no, we have like Mirkwood Bats, Nadirs, Jaheira. Oh, and then we have Overrun too. All right, let's sum this up and then try to tie it in a bow. You have two problems. Your first problem is that your ramp is all wrong. That's very easy to fix. You do the change it all to 1 mana ramp, like I told you. You're going to go to Scryfall. You're going to do O tag, ramp, mana value, 1, commander, Abzan. You're going to pick the 12 that you like the most, and you're going to put them in the deck, and you're going to learn how to mulligan around that. And then when you do that, everything's going to be way faster. You might have most of your problems solved just by doing that, just by being able to play, like, do what you're already doing a turn or two more quickly. Um, the second problem after that is we haven't decided what we want the deck to actually be about. You've decided a few things that you don't want it to be about, and then you've included those anyway. That's not a wrong, like, there's no wrong way to play Magic. I make fun of a lot of different archetypes on shorts, but like, do whatever you like. If you're afraid of being generic, that call is already coming from inside of the house, and that's okay. A lot of the stuff that's generic is generic because it's really fucking fun to a lot of fucking people. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're saying on the one hand, I hate Chatterfang, I don't want to use him, I don't want to do generic token strategies, I want to do food specific, everything in here is this weird mismatched chili of like some stuff that cares about life gain, um, a lot of stuff that cares about just token generation in general, and yeah, like this is one of the token generation payoffs. So I think you have to decide, how cool am I with winning like a generic token deck? And then if you are cool with that, you should leverage more into like creature ETB synergies. If you want to be the devil, you could use like aura shards as your last game changer, even though I won't recommend that, but it'll get a lot simpler because right now it seems like the deck will get maybe like halfway to doing something, but then because we're doing the creature, like the creature enters thing and the creature dies thing in a very half-hearted way, it's stepping on the toes of what our food thing wants to be. So if you want it to be hardcore food pilled, what I would recommend is dumping everything that doesn't say if you gained life and just see how that draft feels with the advice about the ramp and the board wipes. And if it feels like shit, hey, you've learned that you're going to need some creature tokens in it. Um, and then I don't love a lot of the stuff like veto just because I can't see our life gain count actually ticking up that high. Like every successful food deck I have seen utilized the foods to make a board big. They fed an army and then they killed me with that army, or they sacrificed the food tokens for, other benefits. They were doing like low to the ground advantage stuff, like just deadly disputing and then using interaction. They were using the creatures they made to like a moral bargain. And that can for sure work. You just have to accept in your heart that you're doing some generic token stuff, and that's okay. So I realize this one was a little long, but I wish you the very best with this deck. Cut Necropotence right the fuck now, and I hope this helps.